I will check in the other room.
Hello, I am Parson Michael, and you are turned into Sacred Ground Multi-Faith Community Church and Sangha. And this is the beginning of our 15th season. So we're pretty happy about that. Like to think of things happening in sevens. So we had 7 years, and now we're beginning a new 7 years. I will begin by inviting the bell to sound. This is a Tibetan singing bowl. And one of the things that we emphasize here is being present to this present moment. And so this bell, the sound of it is an invitation for us to enjoy this present moment, to enjoy the sound of the bell. Notice my picture's a little crooked here. I don't know if there's anything I can do about that. I might try to, but enjoy the sound of the bell. Sacred Ground is a multi-faith church. We meld together the beneficial teachings of Buddhism, Christianity, and earth-centered spirituality. And we're grounded by the teachings of this fellow, the late Vietnamese Zen Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. So we focus on mindfulness, we focus on care for the earth, but we're also interested in how we can touch the sacred through traditions, through our own experiences, and through life. So we're an open and affirming community, and we're glad you're joining us today. Today's theme is Koans, Complexities, Not Knowing, and Experiential Knowledge. Now, you might know what a koan is. That one of the most famous is, what is the sound of one hand clapping? We're going to talk about koans, which are an invitation for us to move beyond logic, beyond reasoning, into a different way of knowing. And they're called Koans in Vietnamese. So I'll be reading about those in a little bit. And right now, I'm going to invite you again to just come into this present moment. We are embodied. And by that, I mean we have bodies and we live in these bodies. John O'Donohue, he speaks of Celtic spirituality, and he says, we oftentimes think of the soul as within the body, but he says he likes to think of the body as within the soul. And sometimes you might be having an interaction with a friend and you kind of feel like, wow, what you said just really touched me, touched my spirit. Even though there was no physical contact, it's like our souls touch. And I'm going to invite us through meditation, through a short guided meditation, to get in touch with these bodies that we dwell within. First of all, I just invite you to notice your body. Notice how you're sitting. I invite you to be aware of your hands. And welcome, Sarah.
Oh my God, my friend Kim, she's my dear friend.
Oh, and welcome, friend of Sarah. So we're just starting our service here. We're just working on meditation, or not working on, I guess, just an invitation. And so I invite you to just notice how you're sitting. I invite you to wiggle your toes a little bit. Notice your toes. We don't give those toes too much attention usually. Wiggle your fingers. Notice your fingers. Be aware of some place in your body where there's some tension. For me right now, I'm noticing in my shoulders, between my shoulder and my neck. And just bring some awareness there as we breathe in and out. As we breathe deeply and slowly. As we bring awareness. And as we start to relax. Deep, slow, aware, relax. And I invite you to smile if you wish. Inward smile, outward release. We're mostly water. And think about just like letting that water flow down, allow gravity to do its thing. And I'll invite the bell to sound one more time. Enjoy this sound of the bell.
Welcome everyone here. This is wonderful. And this is our first time on YouTube. So we were doing the last couple of years, we've done these services sometimes on Facebook Live. So this is different for us. So, and I'm looking, we can see, okay, so Sylvia and Michael are joining us. So very nice. So if you want to add a comment and let us know you're joining us, that would be great. And hope you might give us a little bit of space for trying to figure out too how to do it. But welcome. But we would love to hear where you're coming from. And you can definitely participate in the chat here. Just add your comments. We'll be doing joys and concerns here soon, and we'll have a time for sharing. So people will be sharing here that are joining us here in Columbus, Ohio, and also can join us online by sharing. And I want to mention we're going to be doing later in the service a mindful eating practice. And I have right here, for the people who are here, we're going to be using grapes that we just picked from our yard, actually, and a plum that came from Aldi. So those are about what we're going to be using for our mindful eating. So if you want to, and this will be, mindful eating is going to be after our Dharma talk. But if you want to grab something, it could be a piece of fruit, it could be anything that you want to eat if you're not joining us here live to participate in the mindful eating. So I'll give you a little heads up on that. Okay, well, thanks for joining us.
You could also have us do a bow in.
Sure, you can do a bow in. So one way that we greet each other is to bow towards each other and acknowledge the sacred in me acknowledges the sacred in you. And so do you want to do that standing up or just
why don't we stand up and do it for each other, and then if anybody wants, they could come and stand in front and bow to members of our online community.
So we don't have to say anything, you just stand and you bow to each person that's here. If you don't feel comfortable with that, that's fine. Or if you want to remain sitting, it's okay, and people will come to you. So all is welcome. So we will do that, and I'm going to bow right here to you, and we'll just go around and bow to each other, recognizing the sacred. I have the order of service. Are there two there? No, then don't worry about it. Oh, mine's right here. Okay.
Thank you, Miss Ollie. I will have our first reading, which is, we always have a reading from the writings of Thich Nhat Hanh, and we always have a reading from Judeo-Christian tradition. And today we're going to have a reading from, actually, two little parts from the Gospel of Matthew. And I'm going to give a little forewarning. This is kind of a little bit of a rough reading, this first reading, the words of Jesus. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit during the Dharma talk and just give one possible way of thinking about this. And it's, this is just one way of thinking about this reading. There's a Catholic priest, Father Jacob Purr, I think I'm saying his name correctly, and he says, we must work to not get caught in the one-dimensional meaning. You know, just like things have layers of meaning, even a folk tale or a fairy tale, well, certainly the sayings of Jesus or the Psalms or the gospel, the prophet Isaiah or Thich Nhat Hanh's writings, they have layers and different meanings, and different meanings may be appropriate for us at different times. So with all that, I will invite the bell to sound, and then I will give you or share with you these two readings from the Gospel of Matthew. Matthew chapter 10, verses 34 through 37, and Matthew chapter 11, I think it's verse 28. Maybe a few more verses than that. Chapter 10, verses 34 through 37, Matthew. I invite the bell to sound because I want to be really centered here. Once again, the bell, we ring it throughout the service as an invitation, just like, oh, I get caught up in my thoughts, I get caught up in whatever else, just to come right back to right now. Enjoy. The words of Jesus in chapter 10 of Matthew. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And one's foes will be members of one's own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Those who find their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. And now, Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. The next chapter. Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon me and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. The Gospel of Matthew.
We're going to have a time now for joys and concerns that people can voice. And I'm going to start this out, actually, the joys and concerns and prayers, with a remembrance to someone who passed last spring. And actually, my dad has been asking me about this. My parents were foster parents, and we had close to 200 people, or maybe more than 200 in and out of our house, but close to 200 children and teenagers in and out of our house in the 30 some years that they did that. And one of the people who lived with us when I was maybe 6 years old, his name was Bud. I remember him. That was what we called him. And he lived with us for maybe 3 months or so. And he's someone who had a rough childhood, was institutionalized, came to live with us, and then was institutionalized again for his childhood. He eventually joined the military. He was in the military, but spent much of his adult life in prison. But my dad, even though he was just with us for about 3 months of his life, my dad kept in contact with him through letters. And I didn't know this. I just knew he was one of the many people that came through our household as a kid. And I had memories of him from that time. But I had no idea. My dad kept in contact with him. Well, my dad kept in contact with him. And he died in a fire, actually, last spring, a house fire. And they contacted my dad as his next of kin, because he had a relationship with someone and had a child, but that child had passed away. So he was not in contact with his birth family. So my dad was the one who had kept in contact with him. And so he asked me to have a remembrance of him. So I thought it'd be a perfect time to have a remembrance. And I'm going to, as I didn't know his full name, but a remembrance to Charles Meade Tustin and his life and all that it was. And the interesting thing, he did these artworks in prison. He was in prison. He did these like ink artworks. I mean, he sent my dad probably a dozen of these. And so I took one. And I'm going to have it framed here. My dad wants to have a few framed in his house. But to remember him, but I thought that was I thought it was perfect to have here in our sacred space. But Bud, or Charles Meade Tustin, just wanted to have a second just honoring his life, and it's, we all have such a hard path, but his was especially hard. And just sending him love on his journey. The Buddhist, one thing they do when someone passes is you can imagine his spirit. You can imagine it going to the arms of Jesus or the Buddha. I imagine the spirit's going to a light. Imagine his spirit going to a light, and all his pain just dripping off of him and dripping away, floating down, and him as this light going to the light. So I'm going to just have that for Bud right now. And thank you all for honoring him. And what I'd like us to do now is just think of someone else in your life, maybe someone that is, or a number of people in your life, maybe people that have passed, people that are struggling right now. Bring some of those people to your mind. If you're here with us and you want to just say a name out loud, you can. If you're online and want to type in a name or two or three, but we'll just give a minute here. Or if you just want to say some names in your heart and in your head and honor them, we're going to do that for a moment here. So it could be in your heart or out loud or written down. So give us a moment to express our concerns.
Dr. Qasim Hussain, our medical director, passed last week from work. My dad, our dog Sadie.
My cousin Mary Ann, and my cousin Jack.
My sister Katie and her daughter Emma.
And from online, we got prayer for the family and friends of Gloria, one of my students that overdosed on fentanyl not long after being released from a halfway house. That's from Michael. Sylvia says Casey Howard and Jody Kessler. And Carol says for Chris. Now I'm going to have us move to joys right now. Any joys that we want to express. You know, we can live with pain. We all live with this pain. But we all also live with joy. And just the beauty of being here right now. So I'm going to give a chance for people that are here or people online that want to mention a joy. And they can do that right now. I'll mention one first. Our 32nd annual apple picking day is going to be this afternoon. We're going to go pick apples here in Ohio, and that's a big joy.
Feels like fall in Ohio. Best time of the year in Ohio.
Sylvia says, joy and being connected with you all in this way.
Joy for our son Mishak and his now fiancee Grace, who just announced their engagement.
I feel a lot of joy these past several months. I'm really finding, because I've looked earnestly for like-minded people that want to bring positivity to the world rather than negativity.
Carol says a joy to my adopted dog Tinkerbell, my sons Michael and Matthew, and their adults. It says 68 degrees here, 30 degrees cooler. I'm trying to make sure I can see the whole comment there.
I want to give another joy for someone who's sitting across the room from me. My mama, Ruth, who recently celebrated her 95th birthday, and of her 30 grandchildren and great-grandchildren, we had 16 of them here for the party.
Well, thank all of you and all of you online for sharing. Um, and just open our hearts and open our hearts to it all. That's what we can pray to help us to be able to take it in, the joy and the pain, and do so with equanimity, compassion, love, and gentle eyes. Peace and amen.
Peace and amen.
I want to thank Michael and Ollie. They go way out of their way. They do extra too much. They're something else. I can't ever thank them enough. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Miss Ruth Malley.
Okay.
Thank you, Miss Holly.
You
you.
dropped something sweet.
Thank you.
So I'm now going to share the second reading. I don't know if I've ever shared a reading from this book called Zen Keys by Thich Nhat Hanh. And invite you to recall our first reading from Matthew. And I did warn you in terms of that being a little bit of a rough reading. And, we heard in there, do not think that I have come to bring peace. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. And that doesn't seem to go with my thinking of Jesus as the Prince of Peace. And then he talks about divisions with families. But then in that chapter 11 reading where he speaks of his gentleness and his yoke being easy and his burden being light. And I invite you to just recall that as I read this about koans. And I'll be mostly calling them, koan is the Japanese pronunciation. And since Thich Nhat Hanh, they call him Thai, which means teacher. In Vietnamese, they call Koans. So I'll be speaking of, and maybe they don't add an S for the plural, Kongan. Here's the reading. And again, always good, for me at least, to return. Wow, I'm still feeling Bud and all these people in the room. Those, the joys and the others. Wow. The ancestors and loved ones are with us. Here's our reading from the late Thich Nhat Hanh. There are said to be nearly 1,700 declarations or short conversations between Zen masters and their disciples that serve as koan or kongan. One may understand a kongan as a kind of meditation theme, although it is not exactly a theme. In Zen, masters use kongan as subjects for meditation until their students' minds come to awakening. There's a big difference between a kongan and a math problem. The solution of the math problem is included in the problem itself, while the response to the kongan lies in the life of the practitioner. The kongan is a useful instrument in the work of awakening, just as a pick is a useful instrument in working on the ground. What is accomplished from working on the ground depends upon the person doing the work and not just on the pick. The kongan is not an enigma to resolve. That is why we cannot exactly say that it is a theme or subject of meditation. A koan is only a skillful means to help a practitioner reach his or her goal. Hakuin, a Japanese master of the Rinzai Zen sect, used to ask his disciples, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" This is a koan. One reflects. One wants to know, what is the sound emitted by one hand? Is there a profound significance hidden in this question? If not, why has Hakuin asked the question? If there is, how can we get at it? Like a train that always sees the rail in front of it and rushes forward, our intellect tries to establish logical principles ahead of itself while engaging in the search for truth. Suddenly, the rails are removed. Our habit energy still tries to establish imaginary rails so that the train of the intellect can rush forward, but watch out. To continue this way is to fall into the abyss. What is the sound of one hand? Such a question is the axe that cuts the rail in front of the train. It destroys the habit of conceptualization in us. I'm going to read that again. It destroys the habit of conceptualization in us. If the fruit is ripe, if our spirit is well prepared, this axe blow will be able to liberate us from the ties that have bound us for so many years to the world where we live like a corpse, and bring us to the heart of living reality. But if we are not ready to receive it, we will continue our journey through the world of concepts. The question is right in front of us. What is the sound of one hand? We speculate as much as we can. We imagine this famous sound of one hand in 1,000 different ways. And what we find, we present to the master with the hope of receiving his approval. But the master always says, no. We are at an impasse, on the point of losing our mind. And it is exactly at this point that the return to ourself begins. At that moment, the sound of one hand can become, can I see your picture? I didn't know about this till right now. Can become a sun that dazzles our whole being. The significance of a koan cannot be reduced to concepts. The significance of a koan cannot be reduced to concepts. It is the effect produced by the koan on the mind of the one who receives it. That is the significance. The effect that the koan produces on the mind of the one who receives it. From Zen Keys by Thich Nhat Hanh.
turn this around to Scott. There you are, Scott.
Oh, there I am. All right, well, this song I'm going to play is the Sacred Ground theme song. It's called Watering Beneficial Seeds. I want to say two things about this song. In the verses of the song is about Wild Church and some of the practices that we do at Wild Church. The chorus is about watering beneficial seeds. And speaking of koans, whenever I lament about some conflict I'm having, Michael asked me one question, and he asked me, "Are you watering beneficial seeds?" And the answer 99.9% of the time is no. I am quick to react, instead of slow to respond, I'm quick to anger. And the koan is I'm not doing my spiritual practices that produces watering beneficial seeds. So that's what this song is about. Sitting in silence and solitude, being mindful of all things present, looking for the good in all things, sitting under the shade of a mother's tree, enjoying her presence, listening to the birds sing, watching children play in her bosom, watering beneficial seeds, breathing in and out, we're watering beneficial seeds, rooted in gratitude, we're watering beneficial seeds, feeling Mother God's breath as we saunter on our way, hand in hand as a community of peace, holding the tension of us and them as we pursue being one, breathing in and out, watering beneficial seeds, rooted in gratitude, watering beneficial seeds, hoping that all things work out in the end, as the light of the Spirit grows in our hearts, breathing in and out, watering beneficial seeds, rooted in gratitude, watering beneficial seeds, breathing in and out, watering beneficial seeds, rooted in gratitude, watering beneficial seeds.
Thank you, Scott.
One thing Scott didn't mention as he introduced that song is that he wrote that song.
Yeah, forgot.
And Scott is known to show up oftentimes with, "Hey, Michael, I got a new song for us," which is always awesome. So, and it's also awesome when he shares songs that we already have. So, thank you, my friend. Ollie and I put out a book for the Christmas season a couple of years ago. And I think I wrote in there, I hope I wrote in there, what I believe as I write this book, I hope it will change. And I love when Jesus invites us to be fresh wineskins, to not calcify, to not harden, to be continually malleable. My last name is Mally. So, I love that invitation for us to just continue to open up, to continue to change, to continue to possibilities. And I'm pretty sure I did write about this because I'll set up the manger scene here in December, and I look at Jesus in that manger, and I want to understand anew and afresh. And I always hope that my understanding is a little different than the year before. Maybe it's a little closer to reality. I don't know that. I don't get to know that. I'm just a little human here. But to continually to just sort of turn the soil. And one of the things I've been thinking about over the last couple of years, when I read the Bible, either the Hebrew Bible or the New Testament, how koanic, if that's a word, it oftentimes is. How oftentimes it's so confusing to me, and it feels like contradiction, and I can't figure out how to put it all together. Ecclesiastes, or the readings today. And I'm in my early 60s now. And probably when I was in my 40s, or certainly my 20s or 30s, the idea was, and we're about the same age, right, my friend? And the idea was that, well, as I get older, I'm going to be really getting wiser. But I think it's a little bit more like, our daughter, she went to Paris for a semester, and she traveled around Europe. And I had the opportunity when I was in my 20s to travel around Europe. And you think, oh, you know the world better now. Well, if you travel around, you realize what you haven't seen. Oh, I haven't been to South America. I haven't been to Africa. At that point, I hadn't been to Asia. And it's like, oh, I actually know less about the world than I did. And I'm kind of feeling like that with Thich Nhat Hanh, with the teachings of Jesus, with the Bible. Like, oh, I don't have all the answers. And, I think I'm in the role of minister. I've got my Master of Divinity degree, and I'm reading the Bible all the time, and I'm reading spiritual texts all the time, and I'm supposed to have the answers, but maybe not. Maybe I'm to embrace the koan of that which I don't understand. And maybe I'll have an understanding next year. And somebody else can have a story about, well, when Jesus speaks of the mothers and the, and the daughters and the daughter-in-laws and the separation, here's what it means. And that meaning may be very valid and may have very deep meaning. But I also think there's something to the idea of not knowing. Something to the idea of it's not all logic. It's not all math problems. Some of it we just have to sit with. Because a lot of life is that. There's billions of people on this planet. I get overwhelmed when I go driving on the freeway. When we go on the freeway, my mom and I be driving, like, look at all these people. And they all have hopes and fears and dreams. And there's so many of them. And then there's all those worms and all those trees and all those insects. And then there's all those planets and all those suns, all those stars. It's all so, 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 so incredibly vast and enormous. And I think I'm speaking for myself. I think I want to continue to just be curious and open and trying to understand and not be too quick to say that I've got it figured out. And maybe that's part of what faith is. Faith might not be, at least for me, oh, here's what somebody says I'm supposed to believe. But faith is this openness to the sacred, this openness to the holy teachings of Jesus, this openness to all that Thich Nhat Hanh can give us. And this idea that, oh, if I remain curious, maybe I'll have a little different insight than I have at 62. Maybe when I'm 67, I'll get something. Maybe I won't. But there's something still good about being curious. And we all know we've all had suffering. Everybody in this room has had suffering. And we know, like Bud, we know a lot of people have had a lot of suffering. I can't explain whys and hows of all that, but I can remain open. I appreciate so much when Ollie had us share the pains and the concerns and also the joys, and that I looked around, I saw some of the faces when we were talking about the pains, and we don't want to live there, we don't want to be there, but we do want to be open to part of that. At least I do. And how can we do this both and? How can we continue to hold both? And if Jesus hadn't had these conflicting messages, I wouldn't be saying this and feeling this today. That's kind of part of the gift that I just got. I didn't know I was going to go there, guys.
We're gonna have, let me grab this and sit down first. We're gonna have our mindful eating time now, and this is something I love to do
Might
with
want to
folks.
remind people again if they weren't in there.
Yeah, so if you weren't joining us before, if you want to grab something small to taste, then you're welcome to do that. We're gonna pass these around. These are grapes Michael and I planted years ago in our front yard. Here's some of them. And this year it was a good harvest of grapes. We've already made grape jam out of part of them, and tomorrow we're going to pick the rest of them. But Michael went and picked these this morning. So, wow, such a blessing. I got a grape leaf. Right. So we're going to pass these around. You're welcome to take a couple grapes. If you want to take, they're very flavorful. So actually I put the plum, which is not as flavorful, but we'll see when we do our mindful eating. If you want to take a piece of plum and a couple of grapes, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. You take 3-4 grapes or pass it around. Michael's also going to pass around a little bowl. The grapes have seeds in them. They're Concord grapes with seeds. So a little bowl that you can spit out your seeds. But just take these. I'm going to have you, actually I will take mine. So
And
do you have
can I say a word here?
You sure can.
We usually, during our wild church services, we have a sacred saunter where we go out into nature and we have time with nature, and then we come back and have an opportunity to share.
Mhm.
So this time, nature is coming to us. So we
Yeah.
our connection with nature this time won't be with a walk, but with the grapes themselves. And for those who are here in the room, the darker the grape, the more likely it is to be
Sweet.
sweet.
Mhm.
But they might be a little tart.
They're very, just to warn you, they're very flavorful. So,
very flavorful.
they're very
And
flavorful.
we ask you to not eat them just yet.
Yes,
But
just hold on to them. So take a bowl, and so Michael's going to pass those around.
This is also your spittoon for your seeds.
And when you take the fruit, just hold it in your hand.
So I'm gonna pass this around so that people can just pick off themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah, feel free to take 3 or 4.
This is from your backyard.
Our
This
front
is from our
front
front
yard.
yard.
You can see them when you're going out. When you walk out today, you will see them. So when you take the fruit, I want you just to spend a moment just looking at it, maybe feeling it, feeling the difference. And if you have food at home, just kind of observing what you have through your senses.
Oh, I
You,
can smell it.
you might want to smell them, yes, that sense too.
Oh,
Smell. And
I know the
just
Concord jelly.
yep. We might share some here, not today, but another day. So we're just going to spend a moment looking, and we are really fortunate that we're going to think about where the food came from, and we're crazy fortunate that these grapes came from 20 feet away from us. The plum, though, I bought a bag of plums at Aldi, and I don't even know. I threw away the bag it came in. I don't know where it came from, what state. I think it's from the United States, I'm pretty sure, but where it came from. And so whatever food you have, we know this food comes from the earth and the sun and the water and the soil, but it also comes from people working at Aldi, the people driving the truck to Aldi, the people working at the farm, people that own the farm, and all the interconnections there, and the clouds and the rain. And because it hasn't rained here, these grapes are partly our water system because we've watered them because it hasn't been raining. And all those people that put the pipes underneath our house and maintain those pipes and maintain those waters. So while eating this, I want you to spend a few minutes just reflecting on the taste, reflecting on where they came from, reflecting on the blessing that we have of so much bounty in this country. Incredible, incredible, incredible bounty. And the cost to that too. So all that in here. So we're going to spend 2 minutes in silence, thinking, eating, appreciating, and then we're going to have a few minutes that we can share our feelings.
So we're invited to eat them rather slowly.
Yes, thank you. Eat them rather slowly. If you've already not done that and started eating, that's fine too.
You can always grab another if you're
You can
here.
always grab another if you're here.
And reminder that there are 2 or 3 seeds in each of those grapes for those of us who are not used to seeds in grapes. So
Right, and I actually sometimes it might make me eat a grape. They're so strong tasting that I might have to taste the plum afterwards because it's so strong. So I'm gonna ring the bell. 2 minutes of silence, and then we'll have a time for sharing and people online too. gonna give folks a few minutes here if anybody wants to share about that experience. Share online if you want to write about it. I'll just share a little bit first. Well, a couple things that we could have spent a lot more time doing this, and I know people are watching here. So it's an activity that you might want to do when you're eating. We've gone to retreats where you spend every meal in silence, mindfully eating. And so I invite you just to try that some, or maybe just the first minute or two of your meal. It's really can be really powerful. But I'll just share here from this time. I was got my grapes, and I'm noticing I'm spitting and online here, spitting out the grapes. So I decided to chew my seeds, which is really interesting. I gave them to a friend last week, some grapes to a friend of mine, and he was chewing the seeds. Niraj, chewing the seeds, and he's like, "Oh yeah, why would I spit them out? It's kind of fun." So I did that today, and actually, it's not bad. They don't taste bad, but it was a really interesting experience to eat a grape and then have the really, really crunchy seeds in there also. So that's just one little bit of sharing. But if anybody else has something that they'd like to share about their time,
And if you want to share online,
if you wanted to share online, you can come here, or I could turn it around for you. Or
Shannon bowing in.
do you want to be? Are you okay online?
It's fine, yeah.
okay, you're okay. We'll just be a little more interesting. We'll go that way.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Shannon. I have a different experience because I have a million dietary restrictions, so I can't eat those things. And I took the grape leaf and was examining that. I didn't take a bite. I don't want to do that. What was it's all really cool because I don't do this enough, looking at a leaf. There was a part of the leaf that was folded over, so I just wanted to see what was underneath. And it looks like, if I didn't know better, I'd say it was saran wrap, this tiny little piece. And some creature made that, is what I'm thinking happened, for whatever reason that I don't know. But it's so cool because it's this gluey sort of stuff. Yeah, so that I really wanted to share that. Shannon bowing out.
Carol shares first how hard that is to be that slow. Then the release of the different textures and flavors as the grape breaks down in the mouth. So much to discover in slowness. Thank you, Carol. That's...
This is Michael and Cookie bowing in. I noticed on these Concord grapes how the skin just slips right off of them. And I ended up chewing the skin, and it had a really different flavor than the inside of the grape. And then the second grape, I decided to chew them together. And then that was like a third different experience, which I actually preferred. And it was like the flavors melded together really neatly. And the other thing that was striking to me, which I don't think I've really thought of before, because I had a little slice of the plum as well, while the flavors were less strong, there was definitely like more of a sour flavor in the skin of the plum, just like in the grape. And I thought about, well, like my friend here, we each have two eyes and two ears and one nose, but we're kind of different. And that plum and that grape are kind of closely related, but kind of different. And that was really really cool. Yeah. And I don't know if you can grow grape plants from those seeds or not. I don't know enough to know if that's possible, but it's also kind of powerful to think that there's 2 or 3 seeds. I mean, there's hundreds of grapes we have out there, and the fact that there's 2 or 3 seeds in each one, that's just, again, God's creation, Mother Earth, just miraculous. And again, so beyond my understanding.
Thank y'all. Thank you so much. I have a couple more things here. Oh, do you want to share, Scott? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. We get around to.
What struck me with the grapes is how sweet they were. And it was more the scent that captured me. But unfortunately, my monkey brain was going the whole time while I wasn't present because I was thinking about the Dharma, the readings. And it usually happens this way at Wild Church, that I'm always thinking about what has been said, not what's present. Because when we go and saunter, I'm not thinking about the grass underneath my feet or the leaves on the trees or the birds in the air. I'm always thinking about the readings. And that's just me. And I'm going to talk about the readings just for a minute.
Sure.
Jesus talks about himself as being subversive. And the teachings of the kingdom of God always brings division because it goes against the systems of the world that we know. Empire, wealth, fame, and religion. These are the powers and principalities that got him killed in the end. So when he talks about bringing division, he's talking about his message. And because he's Jewish, it's kind of a midrash, something that we have to figure out on our own. And the Koan behind it is trying, for me, since I'm now seeing a new counselor, is trying to reconcile things in myself, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And my new counselor, he uses tarot, and we talk about the archetypes of the major arcana, the first 22 cards of the deck. So it's easy to separate myself from the bad, but what Jesus wants and what we all want is wholeness, which is oneness. And part of the kingdom of God message, when Jesus in Matthew 11 says, "Come to me and you'll find rest for your souls," is becoming one with ourselves. And so again, I was always thinking about what happened 10 minutes ago and what was present, but that's just me.
Thanks.
If anyone else wants to share without being seen and just wants to share, they're welcome to as well, of course.
Another minute. Okay.
I'll invite the bell to sound. Ollie and I had an opportunity to experience the mindful eating with Thich Nhat Hanh on retreat a couple of times. And when we went on like the 5-day, 6-day retreat, we have our meals in silence. And so it was in a cafeteria, place Stonehill College, a small college in the summertime. So we're pretty much the main people there. And so we would eat in silence. And how old was Edie? This story I'm going to tell. 3. So when our daughter Edie, who is now 22, when she was 3 years old, we were on a Thich Nhat Hanh retreat. And our other daughter was a teenager, and then our son was 5. And so Ollie had gone out with our 5-year-old to go out and play. And, you know, and nobody's super strict or anything. Like, kids are going to whisper or talk a little bit, but the adults try to be not talking. And so we were sitting there eating. And I will say, at this retreat, I had the best lentil soup of my life. I'm pretty sure it wasn't the best lentil soup that was ever made that I ate, but because I was so present to it, it was the best lentil soup of my life. Anyway, we're sitting there, and I had finished eating, and Ollie and our son had gone, and our teenager had gone, and so I'm just sitting there with our daughter, and she finishes. Like, okay, honey, let's go. And she looks and she goes, not yet. And we're in a room, you know, figure a big college cafeteria, maybe 75 people are in the room still, all eating. You can hear a little clanking of spoons and forks and dishes. That's about it, because people are maintaining silence and trying to eat mindfully. And she sat there. Not for a couple of seconds, for at least 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. And then she said, okay. And we got up and left. Of course, we think our children are special, but I don't think it's simply that. I suspect that we could create a world where most 3-year-olds would love that experience. And we are so rushing. And I think this mindfulness practice fits in so well with the teachings today of the Koan or the Koanic Bible, of we don't have to have an answer. We don't have to have the logic of it. We can just have the experience. And really, any of us here could try to explain. Some of you probably have, I don't know who else is listening, but some of you may have never tasted a Concord grape. I can't explain that to you. Neither can Sarah, neither can Ruth. Nobody can explain that to you. It's experience. And what your experience would be of the grape, or was of the grape, and what yours was and what mine is not identical. If that's true of a grape, will that not be true of God? Will that not be true of the sacred? Will that not be true of the teachings?
Well, thanks you all for joining us. I'm gonna have some announcements here, and then Michael will have an ending prayer. I have my phone here. I wasn't looking at my phone to look at my phone. I'm looking at my phone because people are commenting and chatting. And so I didn't get to all the comments and chats. I'm gonna say a couple so people can hear. I'm not gonna get to all of them, but sending love from Austin. Carol says, somebody in North Columbus, somebody else in Missouri, I think. Hi from Missouri. Sylvia says, once I invite silliness and join you in inviting malleability. So we like fun and joy. That is for sure. So there's a whole set of comments here. Blessing, Michael saying blessings to all of us. So thank you guys for joining us and participating in all sorts of ways. And so our announcements are, we will be meeting next on Friday, September 13th, this coming Friday here in Columbus, Ohio. So if you're in Columbus, Ohio, we're going to be meeting near Ohio State University at Tuttle Park at 4 p.m. And this is a new thing. So every Friday at 4, we're going to have a wild church service that people can come to. We're going to have it we actually live near the university, but it's even nearer to the university. And we'll see if we're going to invite people of all ages to join us. So it's going to be every Friday at 4. So if you're here in Columbus and want to come join us, we're going to be doing that. And then next Sunday, we're going to be at Sharon Woods Metro Park again for our Wild Church. That one will not be available online. 2 weeks from today, we'll be at Sharon Woods again. That will be online, and we'll do this YouTube. We're going to really try to do YouTube this season. So it's going to be every other week, or the first and the third of each month. Will be on. Well, but it's different this time. Sorry, because of Labor Day, it's the 2nd and the 4th. But but every other month. I'm so sorry we confused people about that. But if you want on our email list to be able to get all the emails and get all the information, if you're not on that, you can go to theholynow.org, hit on the contact link. Tell us you want on our email list, and we'll put you on there, and you'll get about 2 emails a week from us. Let's see, and the full autumn schedule is on there, although we're going to be adding a few more things, but the full service schedule is on there right now for all the way up through December. If you'd like to support us, you can donate to us on theholynow.org. There is a donate tab on the home page, and also a donate donate page that you can support us through PayPal. And thank you for all of you that do, and we appreciate it. So I'll let you, if you have any more that you want to share, and Michael will have us go out with a prayer. So again, thank you guys. Thank you everyone that came here and joined us online.
Thank you, Sylvia, for mentioning silliness. We talked a lot about Wild Church, which is, we do this outdoor service, which again, we're going to be doing every Friday, and mostly 3 out of 4 Sundays. So it's kind of rare for us to do our home church. We do it at least once a month, though. And a couple of things in terms of the silliness. Ollie and I had an opportunity to attend a wonderful Wild Church conference and present there in Canada this year. And, you know, I thought maybe people would say the most they'd say is like, wow, we love the Buddhism and the Christianity. And we did hear that quite a bit. But one of the other things we heard, which was surprising to me, was I appreciate how much you guys bring a playfulness and a lightness to what you're doing. And, you know, we're dealing with heavy stuff. You know, we're dealing with the pain of the world. We're dealing with climate change. We're dealing with all that. But we also have to bring entheos, enthusiasm. We have to bring that deep joy. And we want to. So I'll say that. I'm going to make just one other announcement that wasn't on the list is starting in October, hopefully. This is going to be an online program. Wednesdays at 4, we're going to have an online Bible study group. And I'll talk more about that. I'm calling it Fresh Green Blessings, where we're going to be reading biblical texts and talking. And probably going to do that as a Zoom, and looking for people who want to be regular panelists to be with us every week, or to at least be with us some weeks. So you can think about that. That'll be starting hopefully in October. I'm going to invite the bell to sound, and I will offer a closing prayer. Enjoy this moment. We don't. The past is gone. The future's not yet here. But this moment right here, this we have. This God has given to us. This is where all that is sacred happens, in this moment. I invite you to notice your in-breath and your out-breath. I invite you to wiggle your toes and your fingers. I invite you to breathe deeply and slowly. Breathing in presence. Breathing out joy. Breathing in kindness. Breathing out hope. Breathing in peace. Breathing out connection. Oh, great Spirit, we have each been given an incredible blessing to be alive. To be able to taste a grape or touch a leaf and notice the webbing of one of the miraculous creatures of this planet. These grapes which miraculously appeared. They were not there in May. They will not be there in November. We are given the gift to engage with the words and ideas of the kind and gentle spirit of Thich Nhat Hanh. We are given the gift of being able to wrestle with and be moved by and be inspired by the teachings of Jesus. That come to us from thousands of years ago. We can enter into prayers for those who are with us and those who have passed and those who are yet to come. Help us to know, O Great Spirit, that we need not answer all the questions. We need not have all the answers. Invite us into curiosity and wonder and kindness and compassion and awe. Invite us to have those moments where we just feel, wow. And help us to take that energy to add to the good, to bring healing to ourselves, to bring healing to loved ones, to bring healing to this planet, and to those who are suffering and hurting close to us and far away. Help us to understand at least that that's part of why we are here. And please continue to tap us on the shoulder, to invite us with the smile of a stranger or a taste of a grape into presence and wonder and love. Peace and amen, and amen, and amen. Thanks, y'all. And thank you, folks. Thanks for tuning in. And I will say one thing. We will not be online next week, but for those on our email list, we will be sending out the readings if you want to do your own wild church practice. And we look forward to seeing folks again soon. Peace.